Evening 27 by 10, partly cloudy and 20 overnight. Tomorrow, the snow's going to stay off towards the south and west. Nice day in Iowa, temperatures back in the 40s.
You're confusing me with Hoops Potter on Mac.
That's
not the same guy.
Okay, thank you for joining us.
We'll be back tonight at 10. Have a good evening.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. To begin with tonight, we're back to a very basic question which has been asked ever since the Iran affair was first revealed. When those first arms sales were made to the Iranians via the Israelis, were they made with the president's approval? There are two versions on the record. In one, Mr. Reagan says he did not know, and in the other, he says he does. But shouldn't the president know exactly what he did? That is what the president's own commission on the National Security Council is presently trying to establish. Here's ABC's Bob Zelnick.
Members of the Tower Commission spent about 3 hours at Bethesda Naval Hospital interviewing former National Security Advisor Robert McFarlane. McFarlane, recovering from last week's suicide attempt, is at the center of a new controversy involving conflicting testimony given by President Reagan to the commission. The conflict involves an August 1985 shipment of American-made TOW anti-tank missiles to Iran. Commission sources have told ABC News that on January 26th, his first meeting with the commission, the president said he had given prior approval to the shipment, thus supporting McFarlane's congressional testimony. But in a second commission interview on February 11th, the president said he had given no such approval, his recollection having been refreshed by Chief of Staff Donald Regan, who had given his own sworn account of the matter on Capitol Hill, later repeated to the commission. Without presidential approval, McFarlane, in telling the Israelis to proceed, could well have violated the Export Control Act, since Iran is on a list of nations officially forbidden to receive American arms. White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater would not comment today, either on the contradiction in the president's testimony or on Mr. Regan's role in coaxing the change. But privately, commission sources believe McFarlane is telling the truth. In the words of one source, knowing that both the Secretaries of State and Defense were opposed to arms for Iran, Bud would never have given Israel the go-ahead without the president's okay. The former head of the Senate Intelligence Committee came to the same conclusion.
So I think the members of the Intelligence Committee came down on the side of Bud McFarlane's recollection rather than Don Regan's notes, his calendar, and that sort of thing.
Today, the principal commission business with McFarlane involved memoranda and other new evidence preserved on White House computers. Commission sources say the evidence shows a pattern of possibly illegal NSC involvement in private efforts to raise funds for Nicaragua's Contras. Efforts like those of right-wing fundraiser Spitz Channel reported by ABC News. Sources say the evidence also shows the clear intent of those involved in the Iran weapons deal was to trade arms for hostages. Commission sources say that former CIA Director William Casey repeatedly urged NSC colleagues to get the hostages released by early November, suggesting it would be helpful to the president's campaign on behalf of Republican congressional candidates. Commission sources say the Tower report will make no finding as to whether the president did or did not approve the Israeli weapons shipment to Iran. His contradictory statements are taken by commission members as further proof of Mr. Reagan's aloofness from events and the ability of top aides to manipulate him. And while the commission has found no evidence the president knew of illegal goings-on, his failure to control the NSC will come in for sharp criticism in the Tower report. Bob Zelnick, ABC News, Washington.
Still in Washington, on Capitol Hill today, several groups opposed to the administration's Central American policies have been pleading their case about a series of break-ins and burglaries which seem to fit a pattern. ABC's Dennis Trout was listening.
When Boston's Arlington Street Church was burglarized in early January, church workers were surprised to find that most things of value, including a television and a copier, were ignored. But the burglars had gone through membership lists and files kept on the Reagan administration's Central America policy, which the church opposes. Church pastor Victor Carpenter today told a House Judiciary Subcommittee that the break-in was an effort at intimidation.
The message was clear that we were being sent. We have you under surveillance. We can come into your property. We can do what we like to you anytime we want.
During the past 2 years, burglars have broken into the offices of nearly 50 Central American peace groups nationwide. Victims say usually that nothing of value was taken, but files were rifled. Congressman Don Edwards feels the break-ins are the work of right-wing activists, either U.S. or Central American.
The break-ins do not seem to be ordinary crimes.
So far, the FBI is investigating just one of the burglaries, claiming uncertainty about whether there's been a violation of federal law. And former ambassador to El Salvador, Robert White, thinks the FBI might even have staged a break-in at his office.
Suspicions are now that the government somehow had a hand in the break-in.
White runs a Washington, D.C. think tank which was burglarized last November. This man, Frank Varelli, was an informant for the FBI in Texas. He claims the FBI did burglarize the Dallas office of a peace group called the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador.
The FBI already had an objective, was to break the organization.
The FBI leadership categorically denies authorizing any break-ins, and FBI Assistant Director Oliver Revelle insists the Bureau is doing all it should.
We're investigating the one here in Washington. We're surveying all the others to determine if there's a pattern that would indicate we should investigate.
For now, the FBI says these are just burglaries, matters for local police. Dennis Trout, ABC News, Washington.
Later in this broadcast, Richard Threlkeld with a status report on democracy in El Salvador and the new guidelines for drug tests on government employees.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Tylenol.
With 4 children and a job, keeping my family healthy is extra important, so I'm careful about the medicines I give them. For pain relief, we use Tylenol caplets. I was first given Tylenol in the hospital. It took care of my pain without upsetting my stomach like aspirin did. They say Tylenol is the pain reliever hospitals use most. If hospitals trust Tylenol, I know it's right for my family.
Trust Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
I'm Dick Carson. I admit it, my brother Johnny is funnier than I am. He's made serious money by being funny, so investment firms are serious about helping him with his finances. But I found one that's serious about people like you and me, too. Dean Witter. They're helping me plan for my business and retirement. And to get a big walk on the Dean Witter, I don't need anybody saying, here's Dickie.
You're somebody, Dean Witter.
A member of the Sears Financial Network.
It isn't easy these days keeping up with the leadership of the Nicaraguan Contras. Arturo Cruz, who 2 weeks ago told ABC's Beth Nissen he was going to resign from the leadership coalition, has changed his mind. He says he'll fight for reform from within. Cruz apparently decided to stay after another of the leaders, Adolfo Calero, really did resign earlier this week. Well, with all of the attention on Nicaragua these days, it's been some time since we have paid close attention to El Salvador. We asked our chief correspondent, Richard Threlkeld, to bring us up to date on what has happened since President Duarte was elected. That was 3 years ago.
El Playon is empty and eerie now. In the old days, this was where the right-wing death squads dumped their victims. Now, it holds only bad memories. People still come to see if there's news about a missing loved one, but a lot less often now. Political murders are down to about 1 a day. The war is less apparent. The peasants, most of them, can go to market in peace. The rich can play at the beach resorts every weekend without worry. But appearances are deceiving. Washington figured it could fix things here with a lot of money and a lot of support for President Napoleon Duarte. But after 3 years, Salvador's young democracy is in serious disrepair, and our man in Salvador is in serious trouble.
I say that when I took the challenge, I knew I had all this forces around. And that's the reason why I'm telling my people we have to fight it out.
Last year's earthquake in the capital destroyed 1/3 of the economy. A lot of the buildings that didn't fall down might as well have. And there's still no place to put tens of thousands of quake refugees whose shanties line the highway. The war is in its 8th year. So far, it has killed 62,000 Salvadorans. The Army's got a lot of new American equipment, but it's composed mostly of peasant kids press-ganged against their will. The rebels aren't winning, but the Army can't defeat them, and negotiations have stopped. Workers and peasants are mad because Duarte promised them peace, but delivered ruinous inflation. Unemployment is 50%. The economy is a shambles. Duarte has become Ronald Reagan's puppet, he says. We're losing our sovereignty, so it's just going to get worse and worse. The conservatives, who've become more active in recent weeks, are protesting a new government war tax. Duarte's old nemesis, Roberto D'Oppasson, and the rest of the right-wing delegates in the National Assembly refuse to participate whenever there's a vote. They've taken out TV commercials. Don't be a slave to Duarte the dictator, it says.
We in the private sector have not said that Duarte has got to go. What we have said is that Duarte has got to change.
But Duarte insists he's not going to change and has put his people on the streets to try to show he's still Salvador's best hope.
The problem is on the conscience of those who have been living in privileges and don't want to accept the changes.
Duarte's term is up in 2 years, and he can't succeed himself. Nobody likes to contemplate what will happen then. As for the people, as you'll see down at the bus station every day, a lot of them are voting with their feet. 1 million Salvadorans, 1 in 5, have fled, mostly to the United States since the war began. America's spending more than $1 million a day trying to bring peace and prosperity to Salvador, yet the sad fact is this war's gone on so long, everybody now has an interest in it. The government needs the American aid it brings, the military's bigger than ever, the right wing needs it to keep the rebels at bay, and the rebels can't afford to lose. The war is in everybody's interest, except the 5 million ordinary Salvadorans who are none of the above. So the war will go on and on. Richard Threlkeld, ABC News, San Salvador.
When we come back, Alzheimer's disease. The scientists believe they may have found a clue to its cause.
The tax laws are changing. The deductions on interest are changing. So maybe you should apply for a card that doesn't charge interest. The American Express card. Apply over the phone by calling 1-800-THE-CARD.
Tums doesn't have it. Rolaids doesn't have it. Maalox-Plus does. We have what you need for complete relief of excess acid, heartburn, and gas. Maalox for acid and heartburn, plus simethicone for gas. Get complete relief. Try Maalox-Plus.
Who builds the best family wagons in America? 200 owners of Ford and GM cars compared Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager with new V6 power to Ford Aerostar and Chevy Astro. After judging 45 important features, they rated Chrysler's front-wheel drive family wagons best. 79% chose Voyager and Caravan over Astro, 84% chose them over Aerostar. And only Chrysler's family wagons get a new 770 protection plan. End of test.
Inspection! Are we clean?
Yes, sir.
How do we stay looking clean?
With automatic Vanish, sir.
Why automatic Vanish?
Sir, with automatic Vanish, every flush brings us more of that tough Vanish cleaning and deodorizing formula. No other brand can give you that.
Sound off!
Automatic!
Sound off!
Vanish! No other brand gives you that tough Vanish formula!
In private, there are other Vanish products you should know about. When you want a brush, use liquid or crystal Vanish. Their powerful formula cleans so well, you'll stand up to any inspection.
Yes, sir.
We wondered if you have ever considered the possibility that you could somehow check up on someone using drugs by changing the color of the water in the toilet. Actually, we had not, but the federal government has. All these months after the Reagan administration announced that it would step up the fight against drug use by federal employees, there is a plan of action. Here's our law correspondent, Tim O'Brien.
The government says the guidelines are designed to ensure the accuracy of urine tests, but obviously also designed to prevent cheating. Employees will be notified 60 days before tests begin. During the tests, monitors will be stationed outside bathroom stalls, and prompt urine temperature checks will be made to prevent those being tested from switching specimens. Toilet bowl water is to be dyed blue to prevent specimens from being diluted. A comic exercise in tidy bowl justice, according to the union which has filed suit to stop the tests.
We expect to be able to urinate in privacy.
This program doesn't allow us to urinate in privacy. It forces us to urinate in public.
The case is likely to end up in the Supreme Court, pitting the employee's right to privacy against the government's right to control drug abuse among its own employees.
Our purpose here is not to fire employees. It is, first of all, to prevent drug abuse, and secondly, to provide the basis for rehabilitating those who have become involved with drugs.
Under the guidelines announced today, the testing must be random, no singling out specific employees. Detection will be aimed primarily at cocaine and marijuana. Anyone who tests positive gets a second, more comprehensive test. Even if the testing is found unconstitutional, these guidelines could become a model for private industry where the strict guarantees against unreasonable search and seizure do not apply and where drug testing so far has largely been upheld. Tim O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
An international team of scientists says it has found a direct route to the cause of Alzheimer's disease. ABC's George Strait tells us what they mean.
Scientists from this laboratory in Boston announced today that Alzheimer's disease, which affects 2.5 million Americans, is caused by a genetic defect.
We've got hard information that the gene that causes the disease is on chromosome 21.
In the cells of all people are 23 distinct sets of chromosomes which contain millions of different genes. It's the genes which determine things like eye color. Scientists have found two things about chromosome 21. A defective area that causes Alzheimer's disease, and a gene within that area that causes the formation of a plaque-like substance that covers parts of the brains of Alzheimer's patients. It's this plaque which is associated with their slow deterioration.
I think these findings are a real breakthrough.
Knowing the location of the defective area, or chromosome marker that's associated with Alzheimer's, could within a year be enormously important to families with a history of Alzheimer's disease.
These markers could potentially determine whether a person carries the gene long before they show symptoms.
But there's a potential dilemma and question whether people at risk would want to know.
I would prefer to know. I would prefer to be able to make plans if I need to.
Maya Rudin's mother, Reva, has Alzheimer's.
I have noticed a gradual loss of memory for about 8 years.
While there remains no treatment for today's suffering, today's discoveries point the way to a potential cure 5 to 10 years from now and represent the first ray of hope for tomorrow's potential victims. George Strait, ABC News.
We have one other note about health. The television networks are changing their position on the question of publicizing the connection between condoms and preventing AIDS. ABC has become the first network which will broadcast public service announcements recommending the use of condoms to guard against the fatal disease. All three networks will allow the individual stations they own to decide for themselves whether to carry condom advertising on a station-by-station basis. In other news today, in Colorado ski country, the aftermath of an avalanche. Rescue workers have spent all day searching for the bodies of several skiers who disappeared yesterday under tons of plunging snow. 3 bodies have been recovered so far. The avalanche was apparently triggered by the skiers who were on a hill that was posted with danger signs. A Japanese-owned bank in California has been swindled out of $45 million by one of its employees. Officials say that a senior vice president of the Mitsubishi Bank in Los Angeles embezzled the $45 million to pay gambling debts and play the stock market. The bank, apparently trying to avoid publicity, let him fly back to Japan. The district attorney in Los Angeles would like to extradite him. In tonight's other money matters, Wall Street pushed on to another record high today. The Dow Jones Industrials gained about 6.5 points. The trading was active. In our next segment, welcome news in Poland. America is lifting the sanctions.
Our plane was almost 3 hours late. No chance to see any houses that afternoon.
And we were totally exhausted. Mr. and Mrs. Conlon? John Reynolds, Century 21 office. I can't believe you're here. He got us to our hotel.
And left us with some pictures of homes we'd see the next day.
It's perfect. Let's find someone like him.
All you gotta do is pick up the phone. Put number 1, who works for you. Century 21.
Go wild over Riunite Royal Raspberry. The taste of raspberries, a natural Riunite, not a watered-down cooler. And try natural peach. Mix
Next time, get a Haworth furniture system. They're built. Next time, get a Haworth furniture system. They're built. Next time, get a Haworth furniture system. They're built.
Arthritis. Today there's something else to take. Anacin caplets. The first coated caplet containing aspirin, the medicine doctors recommend most for minor arthritis pain. For hours of relief, Anacin. Doctor recommended. Now in coated caplets, too.
I drove that car last weekend. The big Mercedes? The S-Class. What'd you think?
I think you have to sit in that big leather seat, put Mozart, maybe Beethoven on the stereo, then go out and drive in tight rush hour traffic, up some back mountain road, all night in a rainstorm, and then you'll know what I think. Which is, I think just maybe I drove the perfect car, or as close to it as anybody's ever come.
Overseas today, in Lebanon, there's been another day of vicious fighting in West Beirut. At least 500 people have been killed or wounded in this week of war. The Druze militia seems to be making headway in the battle to win control of West Beirut from the main Shiite Muslim militia. One religious leader has described it as collective suicide. The 2 Americans trapped in the Commodore Hotel during the battle were robbed by militiamen last night. The 2 who had been making a private effort to free the American hostages gave up their mission and left Lebanon today. President Reagan announced today that he is lifting the last economic sanctions against Poland. That means restoring Poland to its most favored nation trading partner status. The sanctions were imposed more than 5 years ago when the Polish government imposed martial law. ABC's David Ensor is in Warsaw.
It was good news for the Polish authorities, and they put it at the top of their television newscast. The announcer quoted government spokesman Jerzy Orban in London, telling ABC News that the sanctions have cost Poland $15 billion.
All we want are normal relations without any special privileges or aid.
But what the government of General Wojciech Jaruzelski wants didn't make much of an impression on President Reagan, U.S. officials say. It was the Polish Pope's decision to welcome the general last month to the Vatican and to ask the U.S. to lift the sanctions against him. And it was the support, too, of Lech Wałęsa, leader of the outlawed Solidarity Trade Union, who Jaruzelski once jailed.
Sanctions or no sanctions, we Poles have to count on ourselves. Only we can achieve the necessary reform.
In an interview with ABC News, Wałęsa stressed that before the West lends more money to Poland, it should insist on economic reform and more democracy here. And indeed, though Poland's political prisoners have all been freed, and the terrible days of martial law are receding from memory, the country is still stagnating. There are still lines of people holding ration coupons in Warsaw, waiting for a chance to buy scarce meat. The Polish government is hoping that America's allies will follow the U.S. move, allowing better trade conditions, and that the Western banks will also start lending communist Poland money again. They may, some, but most in this divided nation aren't expecting today's move to make their lives any better anytime soon. David Ensor, ABC News, Warsaw.
One of the Soviet Union's best known and bravest dissidents has been set free. Anatoly Koryagin, who was a psychiatrist, was sent to prison 6 years ago for criticizing the use of psychiatry to punish political dissidents. Koryagin has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize this year. He returned to his home outside Moscow this morning. His friends say he looks emaciated, but happy. As for Joseph Begun, for whom there have been those demonstrations in Moscow, the Soviet Foreign Ministry says today he has been pardoned and he will be released tomorrow. And we just want to get on the record with this report from Moscow. An English-language weekly newspaper quotes the Soviet leader as saying that he would have to step down if resistance blocked his reform programs. The newspaper also quotes Mr. Gorbachev as saying he couldn't work otherwise. We do not know what to make of it, except to note that no leader of the Soviet Union has ever stepped down willingly. When we come back, the Twilight Trial, the director on the stand.
Julie, look at your hay fever.
Oh, she hasn't had a sniffle all day. And I'm ready to dance all night.
pharmaceutical subsidiary, millions like Julie may now find relief from allergies without the drowsiness often associated with allergy treatments.
You can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Save me a dance.
'Cause love makes you do great things.
They were a breed unlike any other. Never the biggest, just the toughest. Introducing a new breed of American truck, the new mid-sized Dodge Dakota, roaming into full-size territory with almost as much standard payload as some full-size Ford and Chevy pickups, plus available V6 power and 8-foot bed, all for hundreds less. Dodge Dakota, full-size ability, compact agility, a lean new breed of American truck.
It began as a simple test to see what hundreds of business people preferred. Long-distance calls made on the fiber optic lines of U.S. Sprint or calls made on AT&T's lines. Over 75% preferred the clarity of U.S. Sprint, and over 90% of them said they'd switch. That's not a test. That's a landslide. Call U.S. Sprint. We're building the first and only 100% fiber optic network clear across America. 1939, the behind-the-scenes battles that almost destroyed Gone with the Wind, the director who was fired, the burning of Atlanta, the search for the perfect Scarlet.
Clark Gable had false teeth. She didn't like to kiss it.
Watch Our World tonight.
Finally this evening, the Director's Day in court. It has been nearly 5 years since the actor Vic Morrow and 2 children were killed during that accident on the set of the movie The Twilight Zone. The movie's director, John Landis, and 4 associates, as you know, have been on trial for months now for involuntary manslaughter. Today, Landis told the court his version of the events leading up to the accident. Here's ABC's Tom Shell.
John Landis completed his direct testimony this morning by describing the events just prior to the accident that killed Vic Morrow and the 2 child actors nearly 5 years ago.
I watched Vic carrying Meek and Renee, and I watched them struggling across the river, and I saw Vic fall where we discussed he would fall, and then the helicopter crashed in front of me.
Landis seemed to choke up as he described his reaction to the crash, a reaction captured on film.
The helicopter really just startled me. I was like, what? And then, yes, I became aware. I was, oh my God, where's Vic and Meek and Renee? And I ran to them, yes.
Landis was still emotional as he told the jury no one ever suggested to him that the scene was unsafe to do.
Did you think the scene was safe? Yes.
Prosecutor Leah D'Agostino wasted no time in taking her first shot at Landis.
Landis, would you like some Kleenex, sir?
I think you'll have some.
The prosecutor's first questions were an attempt to suggest that Landis was acting and wasn't really emotional.
You have a reputation, as a matter of fact, for being a very good storyteller. Is that not so?
If you say so, I wouldn't know.
During a recess, Prosecutor D'Agostino left no doubt what she feels.
Is he faking it, Leah? Well, he'll say no, I'll say yes.
Faking his emotion? I thought on the contrary. That's why I think he tried not to show any emotion.
Landis kept his emotions under control this afternoon and will be back on the stand tomorrow. Tom Shell, ABC News, Los Angeles.
That's our report on World News tonight. Tomorrow, our Person of the Week. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
From ABC, this has been World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
These people have something in common. All were ABC News Person of the Week. Friday we'll choose again, and who it is may surprise you. Watch World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
You have heard about America.
America is not a flag or a piece of territory.
But nothing can prepare you for what is to come.
It's each one of us.
For the next 3 nights, see for yourself about America.
How can we give it up?
America Tonight.
Here are 3 reasons why now is the best time this year to buy your new car at Des Moines Chrysler Plymouth. Your present car is worth more in trade than it'll ever be again. We've got 3.7% APR and rebates up to $1,000. And we've priced every new car we have in stock at just $87 over factory invoice. That's right, $87 over factory invoice on a Rise in Americas, luxury Fifth Avenues, New Yorkers, even Plymouth Reliance. But it's only till Monday, so we'll see you tomorrow at Des Moines Chrysler Plymouth, Merle Hay Road, Des Moines, where you can expect the unexpected.
Stauffer Seeds, America's fastest-growing seed company, delivers quality hybrids like S7751. High yields and a strong stock. S7751.
Here it comes, round 2 of Star Search 87. The Star Search talent scouts have once again been all over the world.